I had a dentist recently reach out to me and he said, "Hey, Jeff, I've sold my practice. Now what?" And I think this is a perfect time to address this topic because of two things. Number one, more and more physicians and dentists are looking to sell their practice. And number two was from a story a recent dentist told me about going to a meeting in Texas. It was like a little regional meeting. He said, typically, Jeff, at a meeting like that, you would see maybe 12 to 15 vendor booths there, and maybe one private equity company would have a booth. He said the one recently at that same meeting had 8 to 10 private equity booths and only just a few other, supplier booths. So what this tells me is more and more of these private equity companies are looking to buy out dentists and physician practices. So this is going to um, continue to increase. And the thing is, all right, you get a check, you sell your practice, you sell your business, you get a check. What do you do with it? Especially if you're in your 50s or 60s, because you want to do something that's going to provide you income. So I want to break down two of the different options that I see is available. And first, I want to start off with the sort of like the traditional option. And I want you to change your mindset around. We're gonna talk about this check, but this check, I want you to change your mindset around. It's not just money. This is Think of it as your business or your practice. Okay, and once you change your mindset around that, then you'll see where I'm going from. So let's talk about option A, and then we'll talk about option B. Okay. Now, option A is going to be the traditional way. And to make things easy, let's just say $1 million is what this person gets after taxes. Now, I want to say that I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take this financial advice. But one thing that I would do is make sure you get an accountant, preferably one that is involved with business or practice sales, to help mitigate as much taxes as possible before you wind up selling your practice or business. All right, that's number one. All right, so let's talk about what the typical dentist or physician does when they sell their uh, practice. So again, let's talk about it's $1 million. Okay, so they sell it. And let's say this is after taxes. Again, to make math easy, sell the practice. They get the $1 million, and hopefully they have some more money because, as you know, $1 million isn't going to go very far. So what they're typically going to do is probably work with an advisor, or they're going to put it in something, let's say like a low cost mutual fund that's going to pay anywhere from 6 to 7% kind of average. Now, and then they're probably going to utilize the 4% rule. So basically, what they're doing is they're drawing down on this to the tune of about 40K per year, right? Okay, again, I want you to think of these checks. This is your business, this is your livelihood. Okay. Now, the problem with this is not only have you paid taxes, on both of these, but not only have you paid taxes every time you draw down, depending on when you do it. If it's short term capital gains, you're going to pay capital gains tax. So it's either going to be short term or long term. And then, the short term is anything you sell, anything you're selling shares of your mutual fund less than a year, where you're going to get taxed your ordinary rate, versus long term is anywhere from 0 to 20%. So you got to realize you're getting taxed on this because you're selling that mutual fund or stock or whatever you're in. Okay. That's one thing to consider. Um, Hard to live off $40,000 a year. That's number two. Number three is, what are you doing to this $1 million? Well, if it's in an index fund, it's in the stock market, it could either go up or it could be going down. And if you take a look at the market lately, would you want to be retiring this year or last year? I mean, it's just like all over the place. And the thing is, you're drawing down over time, you're drawing down on this. So you're always going to be worried about running out of money, right? So that's sort of your typical, and this could be 2 million, this could be 3 million, this could be a lot bigger than that. I just want to use the 1 million just to make it simple. Okay. Now let's move on to option the second option. Again, we want to think about this sell as your business, as your livelihood. So instead of putting it in an index fund, this doctor got smart and he put it into some sort of cash flowing asset. Okay. And this cash flowing asset that he decided to do was a real estate syndication, but he opted to go the fund model. So instead of putting all of his money in one deal or all these separate deals spread out, he put his money into a fund, and it had anywhere from, these syndication funds, same thing as a syndication, except in a fund, kind of like a mutual fund, there's a bunch of different syndications within that fund. So it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 or 10 or whatever. Okay. So he diversified and put his money in a fund. Now, let's start to compare option B with what's happening over here, option A. All right. First thing is uh, he is going to get cash flow because these funds, just like a regular syndication, they're going to pay out. And let's say this is very conservative. Over here we were doing the 4% rule. Most of these funds very conservatively pay out 6% a year. Okay, so we're going to say 6%. So already we're getting more money over here. So we're getting 60 grand. Now, depending on your strategy, again, I'm not an accountant. This money could potentially be tax free or tax deferred, depending on what type of strategy that you use. Okay, that's big, especially in retirement. If you're in your 50s or 60s, again, you want to have the focus on this. Think of it. Think of it as your practice. All right, because you go to work every day and you've got something that's worth $1 million because you just got paid $1 million for it, right? So this thing, it's you go to work and it's producing money, it's producing your income, it's your livelihood, right? So focus on it, thinking about the sale of your practice like that. All right, whenever you do sell your practice. So whenever you go to work, you don't have to worry about really running out of money because you go treat patients or whatever. It's providing income. But once you sell it, you want to have the same type of uh, process happening, that you know that you can go to it. It's producing cash flow, right? It's producing cash flow. It's producing this, and we don't want to have to worry about running out of money. So worried about running out of money with this method, not so much. With this one, yes. Cash flow, positive cash flow. This could actually be up to 8%, maybe even more. But again, I want to use very conservative numbers here. This you got to think of this like a long-term play. Because another reason why I like the fund model is with just a regular syndication, it could be turning over every 3 to 5 years. So again, you're in this time of your life, this retirement. You want the cash flow, bro. You want the cash flow. You don't want to be worried about every 3 to 5 years these things selling and having to figure out, let me go find another one. Okay, I don't have the cash flow right now. You're kind of struggling, you're stressed. You may do something that otherwise, if you had time to figure out, to analyze, to do your due diligence on, you may not have sold it, or you may not have bought one um, in typical times. But because you were so stressed out, you needed the cash flow, you went ahead and bought something that you maybe weren't quite sure about. Does that make sense? So your single syndication is typically about every 3 to 5 years. It's turning over, and you're going to have to figure out and continue to look for new deals. Is it possible? Can you do it? Yeah, you could do it. But again, I want to try to get your finances as worry free, stress free to enjoy your retirement versus how it's going to be if you go this method. You could choose either one, and then I'm sure there's multiple other ones. I just want to show you the typical method of what people have been doing and what you can do to moving forward. You don't have to be so worried about running out of money. So with the fund model, most of these are 8 to 10 plus years. Again, we're investing. We want to invest for this long term, continuous, consistent cash flow, that could potentially be, like I said, tax free or tax deferred, which is, again, it's important in retirement. All right. So we've got that. So again, we've got the tax advantages when you go this method. And then here's one of the biggest things you have to look at. Probably one of the most important things. Let's go back up here and look at this check. Remember, we're treating this as our practice. So we go to work. We don't have to worry about our practice declining or worry about running out of money. You do over here, you don't over here. But what is happening to this over here over time? It is, you're drawing down. It's continuing to go down, continuing to go down. Over here, what does the real estate do? What has real estate done in the last 100 years? What has real estate done in the last year or two? I mean, it's going up like crazy. So you get tremendous appreciation. And guess what? The more that goes up, once you get to the end of the road, 10 years, well, then guess what? This could have potentially doubled. So this million now could be 2 million. All right. So let's say you retired at 50. You got the $1 million check, and you've been getting the 60K a year. Then this million, it could have doubled. So now if you are getting if it's paying you, same thing, conservative, 6%, guess what? You're up to 120,000 a year. Or maybe you're 100,000 a year. But anyway, maybe you're at 80. I'm using very conservative numbers, but my point is, this is helping you keep up with a little word right now that is on top of our mind and that a lot of us is worried about: inflation. This could be another way to hedge against inflation. Again, this is a very simplistic example, but it's really hard to hedge against inflation if you're continuing to draw down on this check. It's drawing down. You're worried about the market going up and down. You're in retirement. You can't enjoy yourself. You can't travel. You can't enjoy your grandkids as much. Now, I'm not saying to put everything into real estate. I'm just saying it's giving you an option. If you want to put some in the market, some into a business, you want to buy a business, this, if you don't want to do real estate, you could put this into a business. Something you want to put it in, something that's, number one, it's going to cash flow. Okay. It's a cash flowing. And number two, you don't have to worry about it going down in value. And then number three, you want to put it in something that's giving you tax advantages. Again, I think this is going to be it is extremely important, but it's going to be even bigger the more and more of these private equity companies are gobbling up our practices. It's great, but it gives us a problem. What do we do with our money? Especially if we want to retire in our 40s or if we want to retire in our 50s. Well, you have a long time before you can start collecting Social Insecurity, right? And then if you do have a 401k or something like that, then you have to wait until you're 59 and a half. Okay. So if you retire at 52, what do you do in that time period? Again, you've got the cash flow over here until you can start tapping into your 401k. So you could actually use this strategy if you did want to retire early, or if you wanted to just use this as some, like a buffer before you hit the 59 and a half, and then you can use this money. Okay. Again, there's all types of different strategies, but I wanted to give you uh, two different ways to look at this. Hopefully that helped. If you have more questions about it, leave me a comment below the video. Hope this helps. Hope you sell your practice for a lot of money, and I hope you retire whatever you want instead of whenever your advisor tells you you have to. Later.